And now I get to talk to a guy who made really a nice strategic move in his gold and silver portfolio and his physical portfolio. Bob Coleman, welcome back to Face. How are you, buddy?
Good deal. How you doing?
Good. So I'm going to tell people what you did, and I'm pretty sure I know the area that you did it. And it was when you made a major shift in your holdings from heavier gold to heavier silver. And it was before this breakdown and this tremendous leg down. So that must have been a real boon to performance that you did this. Why don't you
Yeah,
tell us why you made that decision up here?
um, I was already um, about 72% silver, 28% gold in my fund. And I run close to $100 million. What I ended up doing was basically selling more gold, and adding more silver because the that formation that we kind of saw back in February, March, April, that the declining, I guess, lower highs, I guess you could say, but that relative strength that was also kind of coinciding was kind of a signal that uh, yeah, every time it just rallied up on that gold silver ratio, that relative strength just continued to kind of uh, it, it just was dying, I guess you could say. So what wasn't really it, you could see, I guess, maybe with also the fundamentals that I kind of watch and some of the market dynamics and some of the activity that we were seeing, is that you know silver tends to kind of take the handoff almost. Gold tends to lead the charge, and then silver kind of plays catch up. And I at that point, when you look at the mining, the production cost for silver, which was around, I think it was around $23 an ounce or so, you're scraping along the bottom at that point. So it was just a matter of time before, if the market did catch a bid, you'd see some rotation into silver.
Okay. We're seeing that reverse a little bit here. Um, but it looks to me like we could get maybe a bit more of a recovery, maybe back to 82, but I wouldn't want to see it get back over 84. So yeah, it's very possible you get an A, B, C, and then it rolls over again. That coincides with maybe some type of bounce in the dollar, but the dollar looks pretty vulnerable. And one thing I was taught, and it's silver has been performing before it, but silver usually needs a bear market in the dollar to perform. Gold doesn't always need a bear market. But even if we bounce a little bit, the dollar's breaking down. It took this line out, took this line out. Trend line's destiny is to be broken, and uh, they have fulfilled their destiny. So I'm looking for a much lower dollar for many weeks to come. That should really be a tailwind for precious metals, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think if you look at, everyone says, well, what could be the reason? Is it fundamental? Is it more just on a trading level? But I think if you look at the election and you look at sort of the power shift that happened, maybe, when Obama came into office about 15, 20 years ago, I guess, getting old. Uh, it the makeup of the markets, the makeup of, the power, the elite, the control, the donations, the lobbyists, all that kind of stuff. The way the market was built, the way that the political structure was built, you could be seeing this, with Biden sort of, in the Democratic Party sort of in shatters a little bit here. And I'm not trying to be political. Either way, it doesn't matter to me. But I'm just trying to make observations. You could be seeing, if the Democrats do lose the election in the fall, you could be seeing an unwind of a lot of this power structure and what was, what the tech and all that kind of stuff that was built up over the last 15, 20 years with influence and that type of thing, start to unwind. And that could be a reason for the dollar ultimately sinking lower, is that it's part of this complete unwind. And like you were saying, your outlook on technology and a correction or potential bear market setting in, that could be part of this whole grander, I guess, macro theme, I guess you could say, as a shift or a change from leadership over the last 15, 20 years.
Okay. So political shift equals unwind of what we've been used to for decades now. Okay.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, go ahead.
no, no, and that's sort of. I put a chart up. I think Bank of America put it up. They did
You want
a
to share it?
it was a tweet that I put out a long time ago. It just came
Okay.
to mind. I apologize. I'd have to try and see if I could find it.
Okay.
But basically, it looked at technology relative to the commodity sector, and you were basically right at a point where we were in 99 2000, when tech was in that major
Yeah.
bubble, and so
.com. Yeah.
yeah, and so tech obviously was vastly overbought, commodities were vastly oversold, and so relative strength wise or relative value wise, it made a lot of sense to go into commodities, and that would portray your call on the dollar as well. If the
Yeah.
dollar is going to see weakness, that should help commodities across the board. And in reality, I think the dollar is still the almost like the pressure valve, almost, where the dollar has to go down in order for them to maintain any type of high asset prices. I mean, this is all about. I think someone said it best: the lower Biden's poll ratings go, the higher the S&P has to go, almost, because they're trying to create this wealth effect. People vote with their pocketbook, so to speak. And I think, again, it all goes to this, not to be political and that type of thing, but there's election years can be,
Okay.
very.
I tell you what, because you said political twice. I'm a betting guy,
Mhm.
but I'm thinking a guy who's in the precious metal business that has safes to store metals for people that lives in Idaho is not a bleeding heart liberal. Is that a good guess?
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
could say.
I'm just using a little bit of evidence of things I know that you know you're not
Yeah,
real left wing.
yeah. The industry and obviously the sort of the political sort of
Yeah,
culture is more conservative. Yeah, but what I'm kind of like, I've been in the financial business since what, early 90s, and kind of like with you, I watch the markets and I try to remove the emotion as much as I can,
yeah,
and the biases. But just looking at it from an outsider's perspective, you're always trying to make sense. I mean, it seems like the charts kind of tell the story, but then the fundamentals play out, and that ends up
yeah.
being what's on the front page. And that's what we're all trying to look for that reason, but it's one of the things I love about watching your program is that you're watching the technicals and you're seeing this stuff kind of play out and form. And a lot of investors don't look at that. They just look at headlines or mainstream media news or
Oh
alt
my
news, that
God.
type of thing.
People who buy headlines today sell newspapers tomorrow. Now, so unless you want a paper route, learn to fade that action.
Right.
Anyway, it's like buy the rumor, sell the fact. But yeah, headlines, don't trade off of headlines for more than 5 minutes. Okay. So, it's been in the physical market, a huge range in gold. I mean, since April, right? And we're still in this range. And I know a lot of people are saying, 2,700. Um, it's definitely given you chances to buy it, especially. I want to know what you think about this. So 2 months in a row, and I think this was the first month, this big down day, China comes out and says they didn't buy gold that month. Okay. I didn't know it till a few days later, but Monday was the same thing. There was the second month in a row that they publicized. Okay. They're publicizing what they're not doing or doing. I think the Chinese do that to be able to create a little bit of an air pocket so they could buy. I don't think they're, just trying to be transparent to give anyone else an edge. So you have to learn that when China says they're not buying something, they're trying to get it cheaper. And when they're talking about that they're, selling something, it means that, they want lower prices. And if they say they're not going to buy, it's because they know they could get lower prices. So they use the markets to distribute and accumulate. So just pay attention to that. Who knows if they bought that dip after the announcement. So I find that interesting, that kind of jawboning by China, one of the biggest gold buyers for the last few years, is announcing to the world that they're not buying gold. Are they worried about people losing money being long? I don't think so.
No.
Um,
Yeah, at that level, that's beyond my pay grade.
I mean,
Uh,
you heard the news, right? When you heard that,
yeah,
I mean, a lot of people panicked. Oh, God, they didn't say they're selling their gold, but they're not
right.
buying. What do you think of this price action? Are we going to get something like this in silver, where we still pull back to 28 one more time, or this just another one of those days, and we start turning up Monday? Do you think that the silver, and maybe that's what the gold silver ratio is saying, that if we're going to have a correction in tech and the market, 5-10%, that silver is going to underperform during a pullback, say in NASDAQ? Silver would underperform.
It it could. I mean, I've seen some weird stuff the last few years in this market where the stock market takes a massive dive, and the only two assets that are up that day is gold and silver.
Okay.
Yeah, and so going into this election, I think this uncertainty. I don't know, and especially if you're right on the dollar, I don't know if silver is just going to roll over and play
Yeah.
dead with the stock market if the market does sell off, ahead of the election. But one thing I was going to do, I put a chart out on Twitter the other day on GLD and then relative to the gold volatility index. And
Okay.
maybe that may help a little bit. I don't know if I could share that with you.
Yeah. Let me know. I'll stop sharing and you could take over.
Okay, yeah, I could share. Make sure I get this. Let me pull. See, I guess gotta find. I got so many windows open. Okay, there we go.
Okay. So volatility peaked at the high and it's trying to come back. I like that chart. So
Yeah, and
volatility would have to they should go together, right? Higher volatility happens with higher prices, mainly.
yeah, that would be the idea behind it is, looking at February, early February, or January, February, you saw vol just kind of tanking, and talking to players in the industry, a lot of the trading desks were going long vol as a potential trade. The industry itself, the physical metals business is very quiet right now. It gets typically quiet during the summer months, but this is like dead, especially compared to what activity has been the last 3 years. And so you have a lot of players that are holding a lot of inventory and they're hedging that inventory with futures contracts, obviously to protect against price movements or price risk. But what's happening is at the same time you have carrying costs or financing costs rising because as the industry has been slowing down and you've been seeing, you see it in the premiums on physical metal products, uh, the bids on like 100-ounce bars and coins and rounds and things like that are just, they're falling. They're going to bigger discounts on the wholesale
Yeah.
level, bigger discounts on the retail level. Well, banks, if you're financing your inventory, banks are watching all this stuff. They don't just simply, uh, dole out credit with no understanding of the market. So they may be either increasing potentially the lines of credit, the cost of the lines of credit, or they could be reducing the line of credit itself to these dealers that are taking on too much inventory, and that potentially creates an issue. Well, if they're reducing inventory,
Yeah,
they
they
have to
want to
buy
get
back.
it out the door.
Yeah, and so they may be buying back futures contracts uh, uh, if and unwinding that hedge. That could be one thing. But this kind of environment, if it stays like this, could be very, you know, deadly for dealers that were basing their entire business on volume. You see a lot of with the internet, for example. You know, these organizations that have really done very well, you know, the last 4 years or so, and then all of a sudden when things slow down, you know, they're not moving product, and all of a sudden, you know, they're spending a lot of money advertising on the web and so forth, and trying to bring more people in. But what you're seeing is you're seeing selling coming back into the market, which has been a dominant theme since really the beginning of the year. Is the retail guy is not engaging in this market; they're selling into the rallies, and they
You know, you
continue to
brought
do.
that up when silver was a lot lower,
Mm-hmm.
and you construed it as bullish. You said it's dead, the public's out, they don't believe in it anymore, and then we rallied $5, $10.
I,
Remember?
I I
Yeah,
know. I wrote an article in December saying this is the risks that we see. I mean, to the industry, and it's all coming to fruition. Uh, the issue is people don't want to chase at this point. They're like, oh my god, that silver's in the 30s now. I can't buy it here. You know, I'm used to the
yeah.
cartel smashing it back down to 22. And that mindset, the industry got people so worked up on this idea of complete manipulation by the banks that they're not engaging anymore. They're not willing to buy
Yeah.
the market. Either that or they're going into mining stocks. But
How about this, Bob? They're spending it on rent and medicine and gasoline, and that there's not as much disposable income as there have been from at least a sector of your precious metal buyer.
yes, you're absolutely
They're
right.
not all the super rich that
Right,
just
right.
buy it. I mean, a lot of people that are worried about the future are people that are just getting by, and they may have had an extra 10K last year, and they don't have it now, as you know their cost of living and the debt they've already taken on doesn't give them buying power.
You're absolutely right. And I talked about this
Like a
last year.
recession's coming.
Yeah, as metals become a source of funds, rather than a quasi alternative money market account. You know, because
Right.
basically that's what was happening in 2020, 2021, when interest rates were zero. People were saying, well, metals don't look too bad because I'm not getting anything in the
Right.
CDs or T bills or anything like that. So you didn't have
Right.
much
There's that
competition.
competition now too. That's true.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah. What?
and that's that what's interesting though is if you look at industry, the industry usage of solar, you know, has been
Yeah.
growing. I think accelerating faster than I think most expected, and I think that's the industry demand is really where what's kept the silver price very strong, and had a bid to it, which is not something I think we've seen, especially the last few years, where you know either the futures markets or the derivatives markets dominate price action. Now you're seeing industry say, listen, I need it, I got to pay for it, whatever the price is, I got to buy it at. And I think you're seeing, you know, if we're right with the outlook that many have, is, you know, supply deficits, that type of thing, production not really rising at all. In fact, it's been stagnant. If you continue to see the supply deficits, the metal that's going to meet industry demand is going to be metal that's above ground, the metal that you and I have, and what price are we willing to sell it at becomes a determining factor rather than production costs of a traditional mine. And I think
Yeah.
that's where we're headed, I think, in this market.
Okay. With the dealers being under pressure, and the summer traditionally is a slower season for almost every market. I just want to let people know that I have experience of having purchased precious metals through Bob. It was efficient, and the turnaround was good, and Bob took care of me. So if people want to take advantage of this quiet market and silver down $1 today and want to do some stacking, what's the best way for them to reach you, Bob?
Yeah, they could either go to the website, goldsilvervault.com, or just give me a call. Our number's right on there too. So uh, it's the easiest way is just give me a call. I'm very old fashioned, so I do everything over the phone, so to speak. Even though we've been trying to get a website going for order entry, it's I'm not a tech guy, so I couldn't tell you why, but it just
Yeah.
seems like it's like trying to part the Red Sea sometimes.
Okay.
Um,
So it's old school, and you'll actually get to talk to Bob. So,
yeah,
um, why don't you put it in the text, uh, your website address, and appreciate being able to talk to you, Bob, and hope you have a good summer. When it's slow, go fishing
yeah,
and
definitely. I
enjoy
appreciate it. Yeah,
and it,
yeah, I love watching your program and your comments out there. It's been, I think for a lot of people, if they just want to get a perspective on, um, not necessarily trading if they're not really traders, but at least a perspective on market action and try to see what the market's actually doing versus just reading a lot of the problem in our industry. A lot of promoters and gold dealers just they kind of repeat the same mantra over and over, and it doesn't really give people a lot of sort of depth to the market. And it's nice to especially you've been in the business for a long time, so you can give a little bit more, I guess, definition to what this, what the price action may be doing or what to expect. And I think that may help people guide them through this volatility.
okay, Bob. Well, I'm willing to be your in-house technician, shoot you some stuff, and I appreciate uh, that you brought it up, and we'll be talking in the fall from the elections, and I just want to let people know that I've had personal experience with Bob, and I don't think you're going to get hurt. When you're stacking silver, it doesn't matter if you pay 28 or 29, right? There it is. So there's Bob's number, and have a great summer, buddy. What's
Definitely,
the
you
what's
too.
the what's the temperature like up there where you live?
I
Are
think
you?
it's we're getting belted with
Heat
some
wave?
heat. It's like 107, I think,
Oh
right
my
now.
God.
Or
Yeah, it's what I'm going through. So no reason to go see you.
yeah.
Yeah,
The funny thing is our housing market. I think prices in California now are cheaper than here in Idaho.
yeah, it's because all the Californians moved there. They did. Anyway, I thought that maybe can you go up to the mountains and get away from it?
You can, but there's fire watches and that type of
Oh,
thing that you
okay.
got to be really careful of. This heat really dries things out, so you
Yeah.
tend to, and you're seeing the smoke and a lot of the fires that's starting to develop. So you got to be kind of careful when going up into the
Okay,
mountains.
don't leave your precious metals out in the sun and then try and pick it up an
Especially
hour
silver.
later. Yeah, silver conducts pretty good. I don't want anyone to burn their fingers with their stack. So keep it in a vault or a coffee can buried in the ground. And Bob does have vaults where you could store.
Yes,
And something else to consider if you've ever been robbed, it's not fun. So that's it for me, buddy. Have a great
sure.
weekend, Bob.
You too.
Appreciate it. I'll get a hold of you and we'll set a date sometime in October.
Sounds good.
All right, Bob.
Okay, thanks.
Adios. All right, everyone. Have a great weekend. Okay, you too, Marcus, Patrick, enjoy, George, David. What's that article about? Is there really a big shortage? I didn't click the link. Hit me up on Twitter. Send it to me on Twitter. All right, here, I'll click it. I don't know if it'll affect me being able to. And guys, David Jensen writes some good stuff. You ought to follow him. I don't know if he's on Twitter anymore, but he's very aware. I think he's the first one to report about that China was out of the market for a while. A note. Okay. This article by David, got it now. You guys could probably see it. All right. I'll check it out. Thanks, David. Check out David Jensen. Anyway, just trying to, give you guys insights from different sources so that you can make up your own mind. Keep an open mind. It'll keep your account open. Adios, everyone.
Hey traders, this is Blake Morrow with Forex Analytix. Thanks for stopping by our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like these videos, share them, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the content that we provide here for free. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you in the next video.